1, 2.
No, I still have to do it. 1, 2, 3.
Enter, rejoice, and log in.
Enter, rejoice, and log in. Today will be a joyful day.
Enter, rejoice, and log in.
We're the Leon Tracy family, and we're gonna light the chalice.
The chalice is a symbol of our UU faith. If you have a chalice or a candle at home, it is time now to light it together as we say the same words we say each week at our fellowship.
We light this flame as a symbol of new life, enlightening our way, as a symbol of the warmth in every human heart. Let the lighting of this flame rekindle in us the inner light of hope, of peace, of love. May we share that light with all people.
Good morning. I am Marie Luna, your Director of Congregational Life. Thank you for welcoming us into your home today. It is good to be together, even in this online format. If you are joining from another Unitarian Universalist congregation, welcome. If this is your first time visiting the fellowship, I want to extend you a special welcome. I encourage you to reach out to me by email, or I hope that you will join me after the service for a special newcomer breakout. More information on that at the end of the service. Today's service is being led and supported by Reverend Christina Leon Tracy, our Senior Minister, Reverend Leah Angiri, our Associate Minister, Allie Peters, our Intern Minister, Leah Thibodeau, our Lay Worship Leader, Kim Hartman, our Director of Religious Education, Steve Seek, our Music Director, our wonderful musicians and singers, Adam Robinson, our AV Tech, and our special guest, Jon Reopelle, our auction sermon winner. Thank you to everyone who has made this morning's service possible. This year, we are focusing on growing resilience. We're digging in to what it means to grow ourselves and our community to be sources of life, even when things get tough. Right now, we are focusing on balance. It can feel hard in tumultuous times to find balance. These weeks we are creating balance together. It is now time to settle into your space, wherever you are, to take a deep breath and be present to this time together.
May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be one. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be one. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be one.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with you today, especially our young people and our young at heart. You know, no matter how old we are, we're always having things to learn and things to discover. And that's one of the best parts about being a Unitarian Universalist. We don't always have to know the answer, and we can change our minds as we grow and as we learn. Right now, there's something in the Wonder Box, and I wonder if you think that you know what's in here. Go ahead, type your answers into the chat box if you want. It's really fun to see what everybody else thinks is in here. Okay, let's find out. couple of carrots. All right, let's see. Who likes to eat carrots? Rabbits, reindeer, horses, and unicorns. Well, at least I've been told. You know, this reminds me of a story. It's an adaptation of an idea that was written by Lauren Strauss, who is the DRE at First Parish in Watertown, Massachusetts. Reverend Christina turned it into a story for us. So here goes. Once there was a unicorn named Uni. Uni was a beautiful array of colors, 7 colors for the 7 principles that Uni held so dear. The unicorn lived in the clouds, full of wonderful and high-minded ideals. Never came to Earth because why bother? Ideas were so much more fun. But one day, the unicorn started to wonder where it came from. Where did all these high-minded ideals come from? Where did the 7 principles that the unicorn so much valued come from? And so the unicorn came to Earth, and it brought some carrots along for a snack. Well, it didn't take long, and eventually the unicorn encountered a herd of horses. They didn't look like Uni. They didn't frolic in the clouds. They lived together on Earth. And they each had a funny picture on their backsides, too. Who are you? The unicorn asked.
We are the source horses, they answered. You wondered where you came from, and so we're here to show you. You are a Unitarian, Universalist, unicorn. And you're more than just 7 pretty colored principles.
You didn't invent yourself, and you weren't born in the clouds. Each of us source horses represents one of the sources of inspiration that created you and supports all of your ideas.
Oh, said Uni. So each one of you is important to who I am?
Yes, said the source horses, pawing the ground. And, can we have some of your carrots?
Sure, said Uni, sharing the carrots brought along for the journey. And as they munched, they each introduced themselves to Uni.
I'm personal experience and wonder. Sometimes our inspiration and ideas come from our own experiences. Those times we say, wow.
I'm prophetic people. When we say prophetic, we just mean powerful role models. People who spoke up and fought and worked to make the world a better place. Can you think of any of these people, maybe famous ones or maybe regular people in your life? They can be really inspiring.
I'm world religions. And I think that if a whole lot of people find meaning in some religion, there's probably some good in there for us to be inspired by. My job is to help us find those points of connection and wisdom. And I am Jewish and Christian teachings. I help us find inspiration and good ideas in the Jewish and Christian faiths, especially those parts that tell us that we should love everyone.
Now, at this point, Uni interrupted. Wait, Jewish and Christian teachings, aren't you a world religion? Why are you two separate horses?
World religions and Jewish and Christian teachings laughed. Yeah, we get that all the time, don't we? We're separate because we want to remind you, Uni, that you emerged not just out of thin air, but out of a particular religion, namely the Christian tradition, and were greatly influenced by both Jewish and Christian teachings. So I'm my own source horse, related to, but not exactly the same as world religions.
The last two horses huffed. Uni turned attention to them. I'm humanism and science. I try to remind us to keep an open mind, be skeptical, and trust scientific findings, because they can be powerful and inspirational, just like any religion.
And I am earth-centered religion, wisdom. I'm the newest source horse. I help us remember to be inspired by the cycles of Earth herself and the sacredness of earth-centered spirituality.
Wow. Thank you all for showing me where I come from. You know, I like you the best, earth-centered wisdom. Can I ride you back to the clouds and take you home with me?
All of the horses whinnied with impatience. No, said earth-centered religion. We are a family. You might feel more connected to one of us than some of us, and that's okay. But it's really important to remember that you can't choose to only have one of us as your source.
And none of us bite. If you spend time with each of us, you'll find lots of inspiration and wisdom, and you'll have a better sense of what it means to be a UU.
And with that, Uni went around and talked with each source horse. And when it was time for Uni to go back onto the clouds, the unicorn promised to return often and spend more time with each source horse. The end. So, as we continue with this morning's service, which will explore Christianity, paganism, and ancient Stoicism, let's remember how important our sources are to our living Unitarian Universalist faith.
Our first reading today is entitled Unafraid of the Dark, and it is by UU minister Reverend Gary Kowalski. On Easter Sunday, we remember the teachings of Jesus as we celebrate the miracle of life, which is also closely related to the mystery of death. Jesus, for example, spoke of a seed. Unless it falls to the earth and is buried, it remains just a seed. But by going down, down beneath the ground, it gives rise to new life and bears much fruit. If you plant a seed in a pot or a sunny place in the garden and water it every day or two, in a short time, you'll see some magic happen. It's the magic we call spring. Part of the magic is in the seed, which is alive, full of DNA and stored up nutrients that help it grow. But another part of the magic is in the soil, which is made of old leaves and twigs and little creatures that have composted and decayed to make a bed where the seed can lie quietly and take root. It takes both to make spring happen. The light and the warmth and clarity of the sun and the cool dimness down underneath the earth. It takes the wonder of life, and it also takes the wonder of death. And people are like that seed, Jesus said. Sometimes we have to lose ourselves to find ourselves. Sometimes we have to make an ending in order to find a new beginning. So I ask you on this Easter morning, if there's part of you that needs to be put to rest, a grudge, perhaps, that you need to bury, an emotion or a memory you need to plow beneath the soil, a piece of identity or self-image that you need to drop or scatter to the wind? Is there a door that you need to close so that another passage can be opened? If you're wise like the seed, you won't be afraid of the dark. You'll know that's the place where transformation takes place. And if you're wise like the autumn leaf or like the bloom that's faded, you won't be afraid to fall when your time comes. You'll know that's the gateway to a new and different life.
Our second reading is entitled The Stoic Formula for a Happy, Meaningful Life by Dr. William Irvine. This is the Stoic formula for a happy, meaningful life. Don't worry, you won't need to do any real maths. X equals the number of days you have left to live. There's more to this formula, but we'll get to that later. For most people, most of the time, the value of X is unknown. The important thing to keep in mind is that whatever its value may be, it is finite. Living with this formula in mind might sound depressing, but the Stoics knew that doing so could prevent them from wasting the time they have left to them. Should you spend today having a stupid argument with a coworker or a relative? If you keep in mind that your days are numbered, you will realize that doing so would be a waste of a precious resource. I would like to introduce another related formula. X equals the number of times you will do something in the remainder of your life. The activity in question might be something trivial like playing hopscotch. My guess is that for me, X equals 0 for that one. Or something poetic like catching a snowflake on your tongue. Something unpleasant like paying your taxes. Or something delightful like having dinner with close friends. No matter what the activity, the value of X will be finite or limited. This is because we have finite time remaining to us, and the things we do all take time. One logical consequence of the above formula is that for every activity we do, There will be a last time we do it. This fact recently came to mind when my lawnmower, which had been in a long state of decline, finally died. As I drove to the hardware store to get its replacement, it dawned on me that this would likely be the last time in my life that I bought a lawnmower. My previous mower lasted 20 years. If the mower I was buying lasted that long, I would be in my 80s before it died. Would I still be living in a house with a lawn? If I were, would I still be mowing it myself? Or would I pay someone else to do it? Would I even still be alive? When I shared these thoughts with some friends, some of them spontaneously emitted the "aw" sound of sympathy. It was, they believed, a dark thought for me to be having and a sign that I needed cheering up. But no cheering up was necessary. For a Stoic, the realization that you might be doing something for the last time is a profoundly life-affirming thought to have. The Stoics do not advise us to dwell on the fact that we might be doing something for the last time. What they recommend is that while we're doing an activity, we allow ourselves to have a flickering thought that this could conceivably be the last time we do it, that for this activity, X equals 0. By having this thought, we increase our chances of becoming fully engaged in the activity instead of merely sleepwalking through it, as is so often the case. Along these lines, it is one thing to kiss someone that you love when you think that that kiss can be repeated at will. It's quite another thing to kiss that person when you do so in the knowledge that it could be, or will be, or even might be the last time you kiss them. And there's another important thing to realize about the above formula, and this gets to the equation for a happy life. You have it in your power, in almost all cases, to turn X into X plus 1. You need only go out of your way to do something one extra time. At this very moment, there are X more times that you will kiss the person you love. But if, as the result of reading or hearing this, you go and give that person a kiss that you otherwise wouldn't have given them, you will increase this number to X plus 1. And chances are, you will have more fun doing it.
Growing up in a Catholic family, there were 2 big holidays every year, Christmas and Easter. As a kid, I knew a day was a big deal based on how many times I had to go to church and how nicely I had to dress. And I tell ya, Easter always seemed to have one up on Christmas with all the dresses and the bonnets. And even back then as a kid, I was aware that both of these holidays had an entire season that led up to the big day. Christmas had Advent, in which we joyfully awaited Jesus' birth. Easter had Lent, during which we didn't eat meat on Fridays. After about a 10-year break from religion, I found myself jumping heart first into the Catholicism of my youth. Shortly after returning to the church, I agreed to teach religious education to 4- and 5-year-olds. As Easter approached, I wanted to find a way to make sure the kids knew that Easter wasn't just about bunnies and chicks and eggs. I wanted them to know that we have Easter because Jesus died. But death can be a little bit of a tricky subject for pre-kindergartners. So I came up with this little gesture. Okay, it went like this. Jesus died and rose to life. I mean, there's so much joy in the rising, right? And in those early years of my religious adulthood, the hope of Easter was in the rising, this promise of new life. And gosh, was that easy to do with all the imagery of flowers and bunnies and colorful eggs. But as I continued along my spiritual journey, my feelings about and the way that I would experience Easter would change. The holiday became less about the actual day and all about the season of Lent. First, an examination of fasting and self-control. Second, almsgiving, which is the sharing of money or other resources to help those in need. And finally, prayer. All of my senses still remember a Lenten prayer service in which we took the journey of the Stations of the Cross. These are 14 moments of Jesus's persecution, suffering, and crucifixion, and rising from the dead. As I stood in the cool, dark church, candles illuminated our way as we stopped at painting after painting, each depicting a part of the story. Simple, repetitious prayers, often sung or chanted in unison, allowed me to slip into the humanity of the people in the story. I began to see Jesus as the image of someone who could not only understand pain and suffering, but could actually shepherd me through it. I found in him a sense of humanity. I mean, here is a guy who knows pain. Here is a guy who showed up for his own crucifixion. Through his story, the hope of Easter for me had become something that felt like courage and connection. My spiritual journey continued, and after a few years, I felt I had outgrown my Catholic faith. As a Unitarian Universalist, I continue to find meaning and hope from so many sources. This year, my hope in the Easter season comes from the equinox, where there are equal hours of daylight and darkness. The earth reminds me that there are cycles of joy and pain, but always they return to a balance. I will not have life without pain, but in this life I can create joy. I will not know one without the other, and this sense of balance is my new hope of Easter. Happy Easter, everyone.
Happy Easter. Today is the holiest day of the Christian calendar, the day that believers celebrate the resurrection of Jesus from the dead after being crucified. This evening also marks the end of the Jewish festival of Passover, the remembrance and celebration of the events that led to the end of slavery in Egypt for the ancient Hebrew people. Finally, we're only about 2 weeks past the spring equinox, the time when the daylight and nighttime are balanced and our part of the earth shifts again toward warmer days. Earth-centered traditions celebrate this balance, and pagans call it Ostara, or Eostre, after the Germanic goddess of springtime. In fact, that's where our English word for Easter comes from. This is my favorite time of year. Some people count down the days until Christmas. Others adore the summertime and beaches. Still others love to get spooky for Halloween. Me, I love Easter. I love the emphasis, whether it is pagan, scientific, Christian, or otherwise, on new life. I love the colors. I love the flowers, the eggs, the bunnies, which reminds me of our source horse story that we all shared earlier. Easter is a great time to remember that we have Unitarian Universalist sources, that we are lucky that we're able to draw from powerful sources of wisdom and inspiration. We're not bound just by one source. But it's also important to remember that the source horses, the sources, are not a menu from which to pick and choose. We might feel more called to one source than another, and that's fine. That's good. But we remain open to them, to each of them, and what they can offer us as a deep spiritual practice as Unitarian Universalists. And so today we are going to draw from the Christian source, from the pagan source, we might mention the world religion source, and we will also draw from our humanism source in a way that you might not normally expect, especially on Easter Sunday. You see, last December, our fellowship hosted an online auction to help us raise money for the technology purchases that we are going to need as we transition back to in-person worship, hopefully in this space. There were lots of amazing offerings at the auction. There was food and music and outings. And I offered the chance for someone to choose a sermon topic. The highest bidder was Jon Reopelle. So we met by Zoom in early January, and he shared his topic choice with me, Stoicism. Now, this was a challenge. I remembered Stoicism vaguely from an introductory philosophy course in college, but I would need to be doing some learning. Jon shared with me that his practice of Stoicism had been helpful in his life for developing a positive outlook, peace, and resilience. And he mentioned a practice called negative visualization that is part of Stoic practice that has helped him. A couple weeks later, things changed pretty drastically in Jon's life. And we began to explore ways to offer this sermon sooner than we had originally planned, and to tweak the direction of the service. Here, let me allow Jon to explain about his life and one of his Stoic practices in particular.
Hi, my name is Jon Reopelle, and I would like to talk about Stoicism and one of its techniques called negative visualization. Negative visualization is focusing on a personal loss that you could have in your life, such as the loss of a spouse, a child, a parent, even a job or a house. The means you take for doing it is quite simple. You focus on that this loss has just happened, but you only focus on that for a minute. and you let yourself be consumed by it in that minute, the full realization of that loss and all of its ramifications for yourself, as well as your feelings about that loss. And you let it sink in. Now, after that minute is done, realize you have not had that loss. Realize that spouse is still with you, that child, that parent, that job, or that house is still there. And that helps build up a gratitude in your life. You had just imagined the worst possible situation you could have ever have to deal with. And it hasn't happened. They are fine. Those aspects of your life are in place. Some of you may know or may not know, I've been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And I have also decided to stop the chemo treatments and focus on the quality of life in the time frame that I have. And Stoicism and the negative visualization has really helped. I've already envisioned this moment in a myriad of different variations. And by building up that resilience, it's led me to moments that were very unexpected. For one, I'm not saying that this diagnosis has not brought tears. It has. For my wife, myself, and my family members. But there's also times where it's, okay, I've experienced that sadness. But then, with that buildup of resilience in my life, I've been able to say, what's next? What is the next decision? What's next in care or treatment? Or in the management via hospice of the days coming forward? By bringing about that focus in my life, I've been able to focus on the things that really matter to me. Seeing family and friends, even at a time of COVID. Now, I would wish that COVID wasn't around, and I'd be able to, meet all of my friends safely. But that's not the case. And I accept that too. So in this time coming up, I'm still going to be able to appreciate the little time I've left and enjoy the tranquility that Stoicism has brought about.
I'm so grateful to Jon for choosing this topic, for helping me learn from him and with him, and for his willingness to share his own experience with all of you. As you now can understand, we couldn't wait for this auction sermon to be presented in the summer. We're not sure how much time Jon has, and we wanted him to be a part of it. And this practice of negative visualization and the other lessons of Stoicism felt apt for this day, for Easter, a day celebrating the triumph of life over death. But today we might think about this a little differently. In honor of our balance theme that we're currently in right now, I named this sermon, Life and Death, a Delicate Balance. But instead, I think I should have called it Life and Death, a Powerful Balance. But first, a little bit about Stoicism. Stoicism is a philosophy that originated in Greece and then continued into Roman society. It began about 300 years BCE, or BC, and continued until 300 years CE, or AD. It continued in some ways after that, but with the rise of Christianity in Rome, other practices fell out of favor, and now modern Stoicism takes a lot from its ancient forms and applies modern teachings as well. The common English word stoic with a small s, which means impassive, not showing any feeling, doesn't really have much to do with the kind of capital S Stoicism that we're talking about today. Yes, Stoic practices have a form of discipline that helps them control their emotions, but only insofar as it is helpful to leading a happy, peaceful life in harmony with others. In preparing for this sermon today, I purchased a few books on Stoicism. And this one is called The Beginner's Guide to Stoicism by Matthew J. Van Natta. The subtitle is Tools for Emotional Resilience and Positivity. This one is called The Stoic Challenge by William B. Irvine, the same author that we heard in our reading earlier. This book's subtitle is A Philosopher's Guide to Becoming Tougher, Calmer, and More Resilient. Do you notice that word resilient in both of these subtitles? That is what we're focusing on at the fellowship this year, all year long in our services, resilience. In the face of the pandemic, economic uncertainty, political and social justice uprisings, and climate crisis, we could all use a little extra resilience in our lives. And Stoicism is yet another helpful tool for helping support us in finding and creating it. Stoicism focuses on cultivating two things: disciplines and virtues. Disciplines help shape the mind, and virtues are goals for how to be in the world. These disciplines and virtues are more complex than we have time for today, but they are founded on one of the most powerful tools in the Stoic philosophy: the dichotomy of control. As the Beginner's Guide to Stoicism puts it, quote, "The premise is some things are in your control and some things are outside of your control. Stoics divide everything according to this and focus only on the former." It continues, "This simple practice represents the core of a Stoic's orientation to the world. It helps you decide where to place your attention so your actions are effective. Every practice, meditation, and action begins by training your attention on that which you can control." End quote. Jon talked about this in his reflection. He said that he would wish that the pandemic wasn't here, but it is, and that's okay too. The Stoics call this amor fati, or the love of fate. Now, just because Stoicism invites you to love fate, you don't have to necessarily like it. You aren't required to enjoy everything or have no feelings about the reality that is. It simply requires that we honor that what is. It just is. As I began to learn more about this ancient Western philosophy, I realized that it resonates with the teachings of the Buddha, seeking to be in the moment without clinging to our desires. Now, as Jon said, it's not that this diagnosis has not brought tears. It has. Jon's feelings, our feelings, are normal and healthy. But railing against this diagnosis would not change anything about it. It would only make him more upset. Through his Stoic practice, Jon has cultivated awareness of the dichotomy of control. He can't control this diagnosis. He can only control his reaction and what he does next. As I think about the Easter story, I'm drawn to the passage in the Christian Bible. It appears in each of the 4 Gospels, slightly differently in each one, prior to the crucifixion when Jesus and his disciples retreat to a garden to pray. In each of the Gospel stories, Jesus prays to God, asking if there is any way out of what he knows is coming next. Abba, Father, if it is possible for you, may this cup be taken from me. The Gospel of Luke says that being in anguish, he prayed so fervently that his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. But with each prayer, the story says, Jesus says, "But not my will, but yours be done." Jesus is not excited about this part of God's plan. He doesn't like it. He'd rather God find some other way to bring balance to life and death, but he realizes that he isn't in control. Whether or not you find meaning in these gospel stories or in God, this still rings true to our experience. We aren't ultimately in control of everything that happens to us. What is. Now, I realize this is hard. I'm a total control freak. I get it. But the sooner that we can develop some resilience and peace with the fact that we are not ultimately in control, the better. Now, Christians celebrate today because they believe Christ's resurrection promises them life's victory over death. Christian teachings about the power and meaning of the resurrection have changed and evolved over the centuries, finding new ways to inspire and offer hope to people in hard circumstances. But as the old saying goes, everybody wants to be resurrected, but nobody wants to die. The resurrection is only miraculous because of the shadow of death. Springtime is only glorious because of the cold and dark of winter. Trust me, I grew up in Texas, and I always enjoyed the spring, but here in Wisconsin, the emerging of the flowers seems downright miraculous. Stoicism, likewise, uses the awareness of death to give meaning to life. Memento mori is the Stoic phrase that means remember that you will die. As we heard in the reading earlier, if X is the number of days we have left and X is unknown, then the logical consequence is that for everything we do, there will be at some point a last time we do it. This knowledge, rather than being depressing, allows us to be fully engaged in the present moment and gives meaning and experience to life. The practice of negative visualization, as shared by Jon earlier, helps ground us in the reality of loss, giving preciousness to what we do have, and also preparing us for when inevitable loss happens. The Romans called this premeditatio malorum. And as the Roman philosopher and senator Seneca said, he robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand. He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand. Like any resource, the awareness of the limited, finite nature of life gives it its preciousness. If we, like Jon, knew we only had a little time left, we would strive to get the most out of each moment. The truth is, we have no idea how much time any of us is given, but we know that it is finite. With this knowledge, we can, in many cases, as John Irvine said in the reading we heard earlier, increase the number of times we do something valuable, like kiss or hug a loved one, make a phone call, smell a flower, look at the moon, learn something new, or create art. We have the power to increase X to X plus 1, simply by our awareness that X is finite. Resurrection is only possible because of the tomb. The emergence of the plants from the ground is only possible because of the darkness of the soil and the decayed matter that nourishes the seed. Life is only possible because of death, and it is made gloriously precious because of the delicate, powerful balance between the two. Happy Easter and Amor Fati. Amen. And may it be so.
Each of us balances all the cares and delights of being alive in a big world that can feel unstable in the best and worst ways. Communities that invite us to share with one another help us to be resilient as individuals and as a congregation. Connection is available in this virtual world, even though it looks a little different. If you would like to share whatever is on your mind or in your heart right now, you can type your joy or concern into the chat. We will hold space for and with you as we worship. If you'd like your news to be included in our weekly care email that'll go out this afternoon, and any member or friend who asks can receive it, you can email me or fill out our website form. I'll drop that info into the chat now. After the service, a member of the care team is going to host a breakout room for anyone who would like to process their life's joy or concern, or share anything especially tender that might be present with you today or just in general. You'll hear more instructions during our closing words. All are cordially invited. I always welcome you to be in touch if you would like to connect with me or a member of our wonderful care team. Quiet is a really good way to invite balance. Let's share a few beats of silence now before we sing.
And we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer.
This month, we are focusing on balance. And so, as we take part in our morning offering, I invite you to consider the balance between what you have and what you can offer. Each of us have different circumstances and situations, and sometimes we are more able to give, and sometimes we need to be able to receive. This balance between giving and receiving, that's a spiritual practice, and we invite you to participate. Just because our offerings are virtual, they are no less real, and we need your support. We know that there are always those among us who are in need, and we're here to help. That's why we exist as a fellowship, to be here for each other when you need us. So please do not hesitate to reach out to Reverend Leah or to Reverend Christina or to myself if you yourself are in need of financial or emotional support. That way we can offer help. And we also want to invite those of you who do have resources to offer to share with a spirit of abundance. Our community is gathering virtually, but our expenses are real. If you've never donated to the fellowship, or perhaps haven't in a while, we ask, please do so. And if you're someone who donates regularly, we thank you so much for your continued generosity. All of this allows our ministries to be able to continue for the months and years to come. So as you hear these words from Dee Verkuylen, think about why you are a part of the fellowship and why you give. And then please do so. Thank you.
I have become a better woman, single parent, mother, human being because of the fellowship. And I'm so grateful for its presence in my life these last several years to help shape who I am now at 40. The fellowship helped actually create at this point in my life who I am and who I'm still forming to be. And I love it. And I'm so grateful for it.
As we come to the end of our service, we will extinguish our chalice flame, even as we still hold its light in our hearts. As we extinguish this flame, let us go our ways with hope in our hearts, with our spirits renewed, and with a deeper understanding of life's mystery. Let us carry the light of compassion and commitment to build a better world.
After our closing words, we will be having small breakout groups for conversation. In a moment, we are going to hear a short postlude song. If you do not wish to participate in any small group conversations, then please use that postlude music time to log off and to leave this Zoom meeting. And if you choose to stay, you will be invited to choose your own breakout room on Zoom. One option will be for newcomers to join our Director of Congregational Life, Marie Luna, in a special newcomer group. One group will be led by Reverend Christina, where you'll talk about the 6 sources of Unitarian Universalism. One group will be led by Jon Reopelle, where you can have the chance to talk about Stoicism. And one group will be hosted by a member of the care team, if you would like to have an opportunity to share more personally and deeply. And finally, one group will be just for informal, unmoderated chit-chat. If you have any trouble selecting your group, just stay here and we'll do our best to help you in a moment. And so with that, go in resilience, growing in strength. Go finding balance in whatever ways that is possible this week. Go in peace, knowing that we embrace each other even now from a distance.